What is up, you guys? It's a new week, so you know what that means. It's a new episode. We'll address the elephant in the room. Yes, I'm in my bed, okay? Let me tell you why. This episode, I'm in my bed, all cozy over here. I had a 5 a.m. flight from Shreveport back to LA today. And by the time I got back to LA, it was 8:30 in the morning. And you know, when you have a flight that's at 5 a.m., you aren't going to sleep really the night before at all. You're not getting good rest. And then on top of that, when you're on the plane, you know, you're trying to sleep, but it's not the best sleep. So when I got back here, I was like knocked out, in and out. I'm just tired from traveling and everything of the holidays. So this episode is in the bed. Grant me some grace. Maybe you're watching this episode in your bed and you are decompressing and relaxing before the new year happens. So this is what we're doing for this episode. So get cozy, get comfortable. This episode, we are strictly going to be talking about Florida State and Georgia. 63-3. Need I say more? Let's get into this episode. I said when the committee put Florida State and Georgia at 5 and 6 that they did that to purposely try to justify leaving Florida State out of the college football playoff. I don't care what you tell me. I do believe that. I get it. They were undefeated. They deserved a spot. All of these things. We could go over that over and over, right? But the reality was that, hey, if you say we should have put you in here and you didn't have one of the most important pieces of your offense, not to mention we kind of gave you 2 games to prove to us that you could still win at a high level without him, and it didn't seem as convincing. Now your chance is here again against Georgia, who personally, for all of us as the committee, probably feel should have been actually in that top 4, but because Alabama beat them, it threw us all for a loop. Now we have to put them outside of the bubble. So go out there and beat them, and then maybe there's some type of reparations for this, right? I understood what the committee was trying to do, and for some reason it seems like everyone else didn't want to accept that. They lost 63-3. 63-3. It got to the point that a Georgia offensive lineman was on live on Instagram, shaking his head. This is what I'm going to say. And some people might not like this because I think everyone has this false sense of fairness maybe when it comes to sports in a weird way. I understand Florida State did all that they could and did what was asked of them to be in the college football playoff. I understand people opted out. I know that's a big argument. Well, people opted out. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think the result would have been any different if any of them didn't opt out. Like, what we saw is what it is. And it seems as though because it's right in front of our faces as fans, and you see this big margin, 63-3. What do y'all think would have happened if they were in the playoff? And then, you know, some people are like, well, in the playoff, you would have had all the other people that opted out back playing and da-da-da-da-da. You are still missing a key piece, though. Still missing a key piece. Your best wide receiver can't get the ball without a good quarterback. Defense would have been out there all night, which they were. It's okay to admit that maybe, just maybe, the committee was not completely wrong in what they did. That Florida State is not one of the best teams, despite record. For some reason, though, it seems like this angers people. This episode, I'm not even talking X's and O's and what I saw from that game. Because to be honest, when you blow somebody out 63-3, it's a very one-sided conversation, right? But the main thing we can all take away is that, like, Florida State obviously looked bad. They looked like they gave up. It looked like they had no heart. It just like they already knew that they had lost the game before they even got out there. And it's sad when you think of the season that they did have, and you wonder, is this playing a part in this, I guess, attitude and mindset that they had out there? We knew what Kirby Smart and Georgia was going to do. They're mad that they're not in the playoffs, so they're like, bet, now we got to whoop on you. Now you got to take these licks. And Florida State did not fight back. Seeing the face of Coach Norvell, you could just tell the pain. You do all you can to get your team in a position to be in the playoff, which rightfully so. You get hit with that. Then you're trying to, propel your team to see this game as an opportunity to make everyone feel wrong about what they did, and you go out there and lose by 60 whole points. 60 whole points. Listen, we got to stop with this fake fairness thing that everyone has when it comes to Florida State right now. I understand and I hate that it happened to Florida State how it did, but we all just watched that game. You cannot deny what we just saw in the X's and O's and in between the lines. That was the biggest thing everyone kept saying. It's all about what's in between the lines. They just got beat by 60 points. What do you think would have been the outcome? And I get some people are going to say, well, they still had the right to be in the playoff. They still had the right to go lose if that's the case. That doesn't even make sense if you want me to be real with you. All I'm saying is we have to look at the college football playoff system a little bit differently. And everyone's going to have to come to terms and grips and acceptance that Florida State would not have gone far in the playoff without Jordan Travis. It wasn't going to happen. I get that they have a great defense, but it is hard when you cannot score the ball, especially if you're playing other teams that can. I get that. I know that that's a hard dialogue for some people out here on this high horse of morality when it comes to the college football playoff in Florida State. It's football. It's football. They weren't one of the 4 best teams anymore. Once you lose your starting quarterback, one of the most important positions in the sport and for your team, we give you 2 chances to show us that your team can still win with your backup, and it still wasn't looking like that same firepower. You're not one of the best teams anymore. And then we give you a chance. You go against the big dogs. You go against Georgia, which was a setup all along for Florida State anyway, because the committee was like, oh, let's knock you down. But now you got to face Georgia, who we, as the committee, actually wanted to stay in the playoff, but they lost, which was against our plan because we thought they were going to beat Alabama. So now you actually are facing, in a sense, a number 1 ranked team. This is all I'm saying. When you look at the game of what you saw with Florida State and Georgia, you cannot deny that Florida State would not have held up against Alabama. It would not have held up against a Texas. It wouldn't have held up against a Washington, and it wouldn't have held up against a Michigan. I get you could put and say, well, if the opt-outs opt back in, it's only so much you could do. And if that is the case, if we're putting all this argument on the opt-outs, then they should have played in this bowl game for us to see a real picture of what this could have been. If that's the argument, I'm not against opt-outs. I understand why these players opt out, especially when they're declaring for the draft, and a lot of them have such promising high careers in the NFL. I'm not against that whatsoever. I'm okay when players opt out. All I'm saying is to the people who are making this argument that, oh, well, you can't use this game against Florida State, when they played Georgia because all the opt-outs. Well, my argument back and my rebuttal would be, well, they should have opted in to play then. So we can have a fair argument if that's the case. But if it was the same result, everyone still would have been unhappy with what it was. And the chances are, the high probability is that it was going to be the same result. Maybe not as many points. Maybe not in the 60 range. But I'm sure it would have been in the 30s, 40s. So all I'm saying, now that we're in the college football playoff, everything's about to happen. We've had the game with Florida State and Georgia. Now we know what it probably would have looked like. Everything's going to expand next year. So we won't have this situation occur again. It really will be just football. All I'm saying is understand why the committee did it. And I'm going to stand on what I've been saying about the committee. If the committee had the guts to bump Florida State down weeks ago, before it was time for the final rankings, we wouldn't have been in this situation. It could have eased everybody into it. Now you sit there, you knock them out. Then they on here playing against Georgia, and they lose by 60 points. Do you understand how mad I would be as a player? And I'm out there, I'm still here, and you're telling me we only can score 3 points? 3? This is for 4 quarters. Florida State's going to be fine for years to come. I think they're a great program. I think they have a great culture. I believe Coach Norvell is an amazing coach. I believe that they're going to get a really good transfer as a quarterback coming in really soon that I think is going to just help that program even more. But for everyone who was up in arms and upset about this and acting like it was just pure debacle that Florida State was not in the playoff, and because of the reasoning of why, I hope you looked at this game and probably understood a little bit more. Y'all can sit there and say, well, that's not fair. Da, da, da. The game was the game. That's what y'all said. It should be about in between the lines. It was in between the lines. And I know what I saw today. It wasn't good. It's okay. Florida State is not considered one of the best teams when Jordan Travis is out. Next year, it's a different story. We won't have situations like this in the playoff again where teams are getting, snubbed and they're undefeated. That won't happen again. That won't happen. So this was the last year that we saw it. And to be fair with you, I think they still got it somewhat right in the sense. So all the Florida State fans out there, it's going to be fine. I get it. I know that this was hard for you guys to watch. But for everyone else that just was on this high horse, hopefully there's a reality check that it wasn't the worst decision to keep Florida State out. Not this year. They will be back. They'll be in the conversation because they are a good team. When healthy for sure. But it wasn't as ludicrous as people were thinking when you saw this game that they played against Georgia. So, college football playoff is happening Monday. This episode will be out before that. So, I'm going to give you my picks. You got Michigan, Alabama. I'm taking Alabama. I believe essentially that Michigan is the same team that I saw last year lose to TCU. I understand that J.J. McCarthy has evolved and grown better as a quarterback. And, they have Blake Corum, which they didn't have towards the end of all those games. I believe that Alabama has something that most teams would love to have at this point of the season if you're in the playoff, which is ultra confidence. You sit there and you beat Georgia, and all your understanding is you control your destiny now. If they go out and do what they do, Michigan's defense isn't amazing, but it is decent. But if you're Alabama, you bring your brand of football to them, which is physical football. I expect Alabama to really try to assert their dominance running the ball. They're also going to allow Jalen Milroe most likely to sit in the pocket, but kind of do what we've seen lately, which is, hey, we're going to roll you out. Some of these plays are going to be options. Some of these plays are RPOs. We're going to let you do your thing because we need all assets of your game to win this game. We know he could throw the ball. They have the receivers. It's the run game for both teams that will determine the outcome because Michigan loves their run game with Blake Corum. But Alabama, if they can assert that dominance, really wear down that Michigan defense, I think that they're in a better situation to win the game. I think their defense is better. I think it's more physical, especially in the secondary and when they're in the trenches. I feel like they just found their confidence and peaked at the best time possible. So I got Alabama with that. Texas, Washington. I'm torn. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the Texas-Washington game is going to be more of the game of the century than what people are thinking about Michigan and Alabama. I'm not counting out Michigan. I'm not saying it's not going to be like a close game. But Texas-Washington, to me, is going to be like a real dogfight. Because if you ask me, both of these teams, in a way, stack up so evenly. Defensively, their secondaries are very similar. They have playmakers. Their offense, you got two really great quarterbacks who can throw the ball. You have Michael Penix Jr., who I think has more of the other threat to it because he can run when needed. But they have a lot of factors. Running back power, they both have that. They have really, really pivotal wide receivers. Maybe Washington peaks a little bit more because they have Rome Odunze. But I'm torn. I hate to pick because I like both teams. This is actually a game I'm not going to pick one because Washington has all the intangibles to win this game. But what I've seen from them in the past few games is a little bit foot off the gas, more turnovers, more mistakes, not capitalizing when they're out there, 3 and outs. I've seen their offense get stagnant at times. That's worried me. I've seen their defense give up big plays at times. That's also worried me. I've seen Texas stay true to what they believe that they are, which is a physical team as well. They want to run the ball. They want Quinn Ewers to be out there in that pocket and deliver those throws to the receivers. They trust their defense, especially in the trenches. It's going to be a hard battle with those two teams. So if you're sitting there just convinced that Michigan, Alabama is going to be this really, really, really big dog, I'm telling you, Texas and Washington is going to be the game to watch because both of those teams, they match up too evenly in this weird way. So I'm not even going to pick for that because that's going to be too good of a game. Give me Alabama against Michigan, but Washington, Texas, that's a tough one for me. So if you're watching the games, make sure you come back to this video and put in the comments and everything. Tell me who you're going for. Are you going for Alabama, Michigan, Texas, Washington? Who you want in the Natty? What's your score predictions? Give me all of it, okay? Hopefully you all will have a great new year. 2024 is meant to be a ton of blessings. I pray that you're able to achieve all the things that you want to achieve and more. For me, 2023 was all about preparation. That was a big thing for me. That was like my word. Like this is prep time. 2023 was straight prep time. Whatever that prep time is for you, maybe that was the same for you, or maybe it was something different. But hopefully you go into 2024 taking a lot of the good things that you did in 2023 with you. I think that's one thing when the new year happens, we just automatically try to throw away everything from the past year and start fresh. But sometimes it's okay to bring the good things with you that you got from the year to the new year and revamp it or add to it. It's all about momentum. I don't think sometimes you have to put all this pressure on yourself in the new year to have a clean slate and start fresh and start over from the building blocks. Sometimes it's okay to go into the new year with a really good foundation that you just want to build off on. So for me, 2023 was prep time. It was all about preparation. It was all about process, all about me understanding where I wanted to be, but also where I needed to position myself now to get there. So hopefully for you in 2024, you feel like you're in a position of this year that you are where you want to be and you do believe great things are coming to you. Maybe 2024 is your prep time, and that's okay. Don't think you are in this rush for the new year to have this amazing, spectacular, monumental year. Some years are prep time. Some years are slower than others. Either way it goes, all progress is good progress. If you're getting 1% better in a year, in a day, in a week, in a month, that adds up over time. So that's my gift to you guys in this new year. I hope you have a great holiday. My thing I would say for this new year is build on something. Don't think because you're not moving fast enough that you're not moving. That's something I had to learn a lot this year that I'm bringing in with me to 2024. Understand that you are moving. If it's one block at a time, one step at a time, that builds over time. If you are taking one step every day into the new year, look at how many steps you'll have by the time we get to the end of 2024. That's all you need to focus on. Don't think you have to hit it out of the park, home runs, and all these huge steps. Huge steps, sometimes you end up tripping, okay? It's okay to have small steps. So in 2024, I hope that all the blessings, all the things that you're praying to God for and about, the things that he's working inside of you, your purpose, your life, your plan, your family, your friends. I'm just praying ultra blessings for all of you out here that are watching this video, protection. I pray that God speaks to you in this new year of the things that he wants you to do. And also that you're okay with giving your desires to him. And also have some fun. Have some fun. Do something new for yourself. You know, the new year is great because you can add new things. So don't feel like you have to stay in a box. Don't think you have to move too fast in this new year. Enjoy yourself. Submit yourself to what God is telling you in this new year. Focus in. And I pray that we all have a great new year. Okay? So thank you guys for watching this video. I always appreciate y'all. I'm grateful. That's one thing I want to tell y'all in this new year. I started doing YouTube this year towards the back end of the year. And I am grateful for you guys. Literally. I wouldn't be doing this without you. So you blessed me this year. Like I said, I'm in prep time. I was in prep time and probably honestly still am for 2024. So I am grateful for every last one of you who get on here, watch me, subscribe, comment, share to all platforms. Thank you. Thank you. You bless me. So thank you guys. I'll be seeing you next week.